Hi guys, it's Dr. Rimka. All right, people are joining. So I'm gonna have a guest here today, Paul Grieve from Pasturebird. Pasturebird is a company that does pasture-raised chicken, and believe it or not, there's very little of that in the market. And he and I talked a little while ago about his company and what he's doing, and I have a bunch of their chicken. It's delicious, and I stopped eating chicken because I wasn't happy with the quality of what was out there and the grains and seed oils and the omega-6 and omega-3 content, and I just don't enjoy it that much, and it's not that satisfying for me. And it's one of these lower quality kind of proteins, but the guys at Pasturebird are really trying to up the game and make good chicken affordable. And it's really an interesting thing that they're trying to do. Where they're located, I believe they're California. I don't remember, but he's partnering here with a farmer here in Georgia. They're really trying to branch out and teach their methodology to a lot of small local farmers, so to continue to make the price be affordable, because that's where it comes down to, is like where to make this sustainable. So I'm waiting to see Pasturebird get on. I do offer it on my website, brainandbodysolutions.com/shop. If you go to my link in my bio, my link tree, it'll take you to my website. You can see my store where I have food and groceries. So there's several meat distributors: White Oak Pastures, Beck and Bulow, Pasturebird, Vital Choice, Farms for Seafood, the things that I eat and use, the people I order from, health devices, red light, blue block. You can get these glasses. I'm gonna see where they are. They have confirmed. I don't see him popping on yet, but we will. Gel with Jen, you must have sent, did you mean to send me a request? I'm going to text my guys and say, hey, can you check? That's okay. He isn't here yet. We're just, does somebody else want to pop on until he pops on? Do you want me to bring you live and say hi? Do they also do egg keto madness? I don't know. I think they might do. Oh, my sister's on here. My sister just joined Instagram the other day. Hey, Kim. My sister is not technical. I am impressed. Kim, this is going to be, oh, thank you, Health Food Junk Inc. Information share so invaluable. Thank you. So sweet. Not everybody appreciates me. Some people tell me I'm a stupid loser and that my page is worthless. I always love when you get those comments. I always will think to myself, what is it about you that makes you feel the need to take the time out of your day to write that down? I mean, was that really necessary? I don't know. Because I don't really write anything that should really inspire so much vitriol, right? But it is what it is. So they're checking. Oops, I don't want that. He's not here. Paul from Pasturebird, we're waiting for. Does anybody else want to pop on and say hi? View requests. Who's Gel with Jen? Do you want me to look at your request? Anyone want to pop on and say hi? I should bring my sister. She would be like, she'd be like this. I don't know what's happening. How do you do it? I don't know. How do I do it? That's how my sister does it. It's funny. We're waiting for the founder of Pasturebird, Paul. He's the founder. He found me because of my podcast. Oh. Awesome, Gel with Jen. That was a mistake. Well, he's not here. Anybody want to join me? Anybody who requests to join the video right now, I will bring you on with me. You can ask me a question, because why not? Maybe I can answer it, maybe I can't. Or we could just say hi. I'll bring you on. What do you want? Who wants to come on? Next one that pops, I'll say You're on camera. Until he comes, and then I'll have to kick you off. He confirmed too. Now we are dealing with different time zones, so this might be a bust. But I really like this chicken. I really like it was really cool when I talked with them. So they have camera set up, and you can see how the chicken situation is, and they really are like all on the grass and eating like grass and bugs and stuff. And they have set it up to where like the little barn things are on wheels, and then they rotate the whole thing. So like that's the way they just go through the pasture and they're able to move the chickens and moving this whole thing. It's really kind of cool. Okay, so my staff has said he's on Instagram saying he has trouble joining. Oh, here he is. I think it's going to work. Thank you guys for your patience. So if you have any questions about the way he does his chicken, I don't even know what there.
Man, what a journey.
Hey, it's okay. Only a couple
How
minutes.
are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm so sorry. It was really weird. I'm the worst with anything tech and social media, but it was not showing your live on your page on my screen for whatever
Oh,
reason. So it was really weird.
it's okay.
But I'm stoked to be with you.
Yeah,
Thanks
so
for taking a little bit of time. This should be
I
fun.
love it. I'm gonna just do headphones just because it's gonna sound a little bit better for me.
Sure.
I'll totally love it, but hang on. All right, I'm kind of warming them up, but I can't do what you really do justice. You know what I mean? I told him, I said, hey, I got some of the chicken. It's really good. I had avoided chicken for a while because I was having a hard time finding, sources that I liked. And
Right.
you had a very unique operation. So honestly, I just want you to introduce everybody and tell them about it and what you're trying to do, because they were asking where you're in California, right? Am I
We are.
making,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we're down in
yeah,
Southern California, but we're starting to farm in Georgia as well, so that's kind of
yeah,
exciting.
yeah. That's what I said. And I'm here and I know
Yeah.
where you're kind of doing it, what's going on. And yeah, so just tell them a little bit about Pasturebird and why you guys are doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I was former Marine Corps scout sniper. I was in the school in Virginia when I got hit with the autoimmune Lyme disease from a tick, and never really thought too much about food or health before that, but started to get really weird brain fog and fatigue and arthritic kind of pain at 22, 23 years old. And after being like a college athlete and Marine and all this stuff, it was really weird to have what felt like health problems at a young age. So my whole family got pretty interested in food, kind of went down the like paleo route, pretty hardcore, started feeling much better and just like performing better. And it was the first time we ever connected food to health, which is
Hmm.
sounds weird now because now
Right,
it's like
right.
obvious, right?
Yeah.
Um, but we started really looking for like elevated, organic and free range and all natural and grass fed, and just got super bummed when we started to learn what those terms actually meant. Um, it's a lot of deceptive practices that happen in the food space, especially in the meat space. Free range does not mean what you think. Organic doesn't mean what you think. Pasture raised doesn't even mean what you think. And I'd love to kind of help debunk and walk through some of those things for your followers. But we
Yeah.
got really disappointed. Started looking for pasture raised chicken and couldn't find any. This is back in like 2012 when I got back from Iraq, and my family was just like, you know what? Let's just do it ourselves. Let's get like 50 birds and we put them in the backyard, and it was just meant to be like a fun family hobby, and it became a full-fledged business now. So we're like the largest pasture raised poultry company in the country, which is kind of crazy, but it's been like rad experience to really look at nature as a template. So our whole thing is like, we're not trying to cram nature into our box. Like, let's look at nature as really the optimal design and figure out how to raise livestock in a way that's like in line with their biomimicry, in line with like what nature actually calls for. So it's just really cool to like partner with nature in producing livestock instead of really like the other way around.
Yeah. I love that story. When I read it on your website and everything talked about it, like, okay, you just wasn't it your brother or some who ordered the 50? Like, you wasn't it a family gathering, and then
Yeah,
somebody literally went and ordered them online.
there's more to it. Yeah, so it was actually like we were joking about getting some chickens for the backyard, and my brother-in-law Rob was kind of like, I guess he took it a little more seriously than everybody else because he disappeared from the room and he came back like 10 minutes later. He goes, "Oh, hey, by the way, I ordered like 50 chickens. They're going to be here in 2 weeks." And we were legit like never raised an animal, maybe a backyard dog. Like that was it,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And I'm from downtown Seattle, no experience with farming. And the first time we harvested those birds, it was like this. It was like the iPad here and like the chickens here and
yeah.
watching Joel Salatin on YouTube and like going back and forth, trying to figure out how to do everything. You know, it was like on the job training, I guess.
Yeah,
But you know, it's funny because so much when you do it again in partnership with nature, so much of it's like instinctive. Like I still don't know the name of chicken antibiotics or stuff that they put in like the feed lines or the water lines. Like if you move your animals again, like nature, animals are never sedentary, they're never monocrops, so
right.
there's always mixed species with mixed animals and like always movement all the time. When you do it according to nature's way, it's easier in a lot of ways. Yeah, it's like costs a little bit more and it's more complicated, I guess, because the ag schools don't teach you how to do it or whatever. But there's so many parts of it that are just easier. It's like eating healthy. So many like ancillary problems start to kind of fade away when you get your diet and your lifestyle kind of right. You kind of like forget, well, it sucks for people that have to deal with, you know, endoritis or all these weird chicken diseases that we don't even have experience with, you know?
Yeah, I love it because actually we're such a clean slate that you weren't adulterated or poisoned with this is how you do it, right? The industry way, because you would have been taught how industrialized chicken farmers are doing something instead of learning by observing nature, like by not
Yeah.
knowing anything. Um, I'm glad you went that route and you figured it out. So in this journey, let's talk about what you figured out and where you are with how your chickens are raised and treated. And in that, I guess you probably could debunk some of those terms. Kind of like,
Yeah.
this is what we do, and this is how you can see it. Um, I was telling them I saw it on video camera with you, like how you can see and how the whole thing kind of moves and what the chickens are doing is really, it's very unique. So maybe explain them, like, this is the difference of how we're trying to mimic nature. This is what the chickens go through, and what some of those terms really mean in the industry and how they aren't meaning what you think they mean.
It's hard to say how we're different without kind of explaining how
Okay.
99.999% of chickens are raised, you know?
Yeah. Go
So,
ahead.
and don't ever take this as me knocking other farmers. Like I always tell everybody, I have nothing but respect for anybody trying to grow food. And they're some of the best people in the world. And this is much more directed at like corporate marketing budgets and entities that are slapping fake labels on stuff. I think like the food system just dramatically like needs transparency above all else. But the way most chickens are raised, and this is 99 point, as many nines as you can come up with, about a 600-foot long barn, 30-foot wide, something like 20,000, 24, 25,000 chickens inside of each barn. Sounds like a lot, but the way that those birds are living is a stationary environment, right? So the place that they're living, eating, sleeping, and pooping is all the same. Like day after day after day after day, month after month, year after year, it's going to be the same environment. Um, that's kind of like conventional chicken production. So if you went to just the basic, like cheapest Walmart, whatever, nothing wrong with Walmart, but if you went to kind of get the cheapest chicken, like that's what you're getting. To make that same product free range, right? So all you do, and again, not knocking farmers or anything, but all you do to make that product free range, you take a few doors, like in the side of the house, and you open them up for a few hours a day. Doesn't matter if the birds ever go outside or not. Like that's not the question. Is if you gave them access to the outdoors, which sounds really great to like anybody, consumer, unlimited access to the outdoors, outdoor access, like all this stuff. It sounds really good. Those birds, they're prey animals. If you've ever been to Hawaii or Thailand and see like chickens in their wild environment, they like to be in the shade. They like to be close to their buddies. They like to be close to their like food and water. So they're going to stay pretty much inside of that house like 99% of the time. So it doesn't really matter though. The fact that they had outdoor access, that's what makes them free range. So even those birds are still, I mean, spending almost all of their life on their own fecal material and on the bedding and the litter and stuff like that in a stationary type of environment, kind of oscillating between the food and the water and the food and the water. And the goal of a lot of conventional production is literally like, how do we get as many pounds on this animal as fast as we can, as cheap as we can? Like, that's the business. And what that means to you or me is, how do we get these animals as obese as possible in the shortest amount of time? I mean, that's not a picture of wellness, you know?
Yeah.
So that's really a free range. And then to make that same farm organic, all you're going to do is you're going to take the feed that goes into the house and you're going to replace that with certified organic. You know, USDA has to certify that this feed is organic. And now you have certified organic, free range chicken, kind of like top of the line Whole Foods. Again, nothing wrong with Whole Foods, but that's what you're getting, you know. That's really like all that's different about it. And the real bummer to me, pasture raised has been kind of this like gold standard of moving animals across the pasture. And I could explain how it's really different. Even that term is now being co-opted. And technically, if you look at the USDA, as long as the birds had outdoor access, you can label it pasture raised. So even in the store, you know, if you start seeing pasture raised eggs or meat, you're still totally getting a bird that spent most of its life inside. So all that's kind of like what everybody else does. The 1,000 or so of us doing pasture raised chicken across the country, by and large, small scale, farmers market kind of scale. We're bigger, but we're still tiny compared to anybody else. The way it works is it's all about movement. So our birds live in these floorless mobile coops, and they're moving every single day to a fresh spot of pasture. So where they poop on the ground, instead of being a big liability for us, it's an amazing asset, because that chicken poop is the best fertilizer in the world. You know, any of your old school gardeners on here, they'll know, like, if you can get your hands on legit organic chicken manure, that's the best fertilizer you can ever come up, better than anything Monsanto's ever figured out, you know. So they're living on the ground, they're foraging, they're pecking and scratching, eating the grass, the bugs, the worms, the flowers, the weeds, also eating grains that are supplemental to their diet, but it's in a big variety with lots of different other things. And then every single day they're getting a whole fresh new salad bar of mixed diet. And then that clean air, you know, it's just like, there's no ammonia inside of these coops, because they're floorless and they're open and they're getting a new set of fresh pasture every single day. So it's really a completely different fundamental way of raising animals. In nature, animals are never stationary. Like, if you look at wildebeest or bison or any animal, they're going to eat the grass, poop on the ground, and then they're going to move to the next spot all the time. And so we're just taking a note out of nature's book. And again, it's not just us, it's like about 1,000 of us pastured poultry farmers across the country that are kind of trying to, like, this isn't new, you know, we're trying to like pioneer what your grandparents, your great grandparents probably already did, you know?
Yeah. Which is what I think a lot of us are really trying to do. Like, again, this isn't new. Let's just go back before we made everything over technological and over trying to like make something 10x. We got in this habit of, we got to 10x the return on investment all the time on 100x. Let's just, how many more can we cram into the barn? Now let's do this. So it's kind of, you know, we're going back to keep it simple. So you don't need antibiotics. You don't need all this fake stuff, and working more in respect with harmony. So with nature, right? Let's talk about that from an economic standpoint. So first of all, me hearing 1,000 farmers, pasture, you know, ranchers, I'm like, wow, that's a lot more than I realized. Do you guys? So one, let's talk about economics, like the cost on this, and like why, you know, the incentives to go into it, to not go into it. And do you guys like have some type of, you know, like, you have team meetings and association, you know, like, are you guys working as a community to be helping each other and that kind of stuff as well?
Yeah, you know, a little bit, but it could probably be better. There's 1,000 of us, and if you know any farmers, you know, we're like the most fiercely independent people that just want to go out and do our own thing. Yeah. So it's not like any group that we all work for or something. There is a group that's doing good work called American Pastured Poultry Producers Association, and I'd highly recommend, if somebody wants to type it in the comments, even www.getrealchicken.com. And that will link you up with like real pastured poultry farmers in your area that are doing a legit job. A lot of these guys are tiny, and a lot of are even Amish, you know? So
Yeah.
they may not have a website. They might not even have a Facebook. You might have to go find them at a farmer's market. Our bent, like what we've really tried to pioneer is, that's awesome. We love local food. We love small scale production. The reality is though, like I grew up square in the middle class. And if I look at like, you know, my parents growing up downtown Seattle, there's just no way they could have afforded legit real pasture raised chicken at the current prices. Like even if they wanted to, whatever, like they're just in that target set that probably wouldn't have driven to the farmer's market. They probably like would have just not really had the opportunity. So within Pasturebird, within my company, what I think we're trying to do really special is how do we like scale pasture poultry up to a point where it becomes more accessible and affordable to more people? Because I think above a lot of other things that get talked about in the news, I think we have a nutrient density problem in our country and really like in the modern world, where you take something like an orange, and in the last 50 years, we've depleted 90% of the critical vitamins that are in a normal citrus orange. And that all comes back to soil health. And then we see all these like chronic disease and all this other stuff. I just can't help but think some of that has to come back to the nutrient density that's in our food naturally from depleting soil for year after year after year. And like what looks like, you know, strawberry just doesn't have the nutrient profile that a strawberry did 15, 50, or 100 years ago. So I think it's really important that somebody takes the ball and gets these like real pasture raised meat products into real grocery at a real price point, not the cheapest, but like at a price point where people can afford. So we've spent the last 4 years developing systems and like partnerships and all this stuff to bring some scale into it and try to get it at least like under the cost of, you know, modern day organic would be really great. So you're never going to be able to get this for the cheapest, but how do we get it to where it's not $40 for a whole chicken? Because yeah, that's cool. Get it locally where you can, but not everybody can afford that. Like it's just not realistic for, honestly, for most people. They're not gonna be able to do that.
So a couple questions coming in. Let's
Yeah,
ask that.
I'll go up to everyday Lori if you want. So organic soy. Soy is a big part of chicken diet. You'll see very, very, very rarely, you'll see a soy-free production. What I always need to like encourage people to remember is that chickens are so different than humans, and they're so different than ruminant animals like beef cattle. Chickens have an organ that I wish I had. The organ's called a gizzard. The way that organ works is it actually takes the grains that they pick up either in nature or in their supplemental feed, and it literally sprouts those grains and it stone grinds those grains to make them more nutritionally available to the bird. It's this amazing system that makes chickens way more tolerable to grains, including soy or corn or any other kind of grain that they would find in the field. So it's a completely different animal. If you were to feed a cow corn and soy, they're a ruminant animal, 8-part stomach. It will completely throw off their digestive system. If you're to feed me a bunch of grains, it completely throws off my digestive system. But in the same way, I can eat a cow that's eaten grass its whole life. I can't eat grass, but when it gets filtered through a cow, I can. I can also eat chicken that's had some corn or soy, but I think the healthiest chicken's the one that gets grasses, bugs, weeds, flowers, and some corn and soy, not just eating the grains only for their whole diet. So that's kind of like the grain and the soy piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly what Michaela Collette said. Like in the industrial system, all they're getting is grains ever. They're not getting that mixed diet, that fresh air, that exercise, that sunshine. Avocados was asking, can organic still been injected with antibiotics? Very touchy subject. It gets into all these guys in suits and ties talking about, well, what is an antibiotic and what's not, and like, is it human grade or is it not?
Yeah.
So it's this really, really sketchy on both conventional and organic. If they would obviously say like there aren't any antibiotics in any chicken ever, because what they would say is by the time that bird's harvested, the parts per million of antibiotic residue is below the federal parts per billion limit. So it's antibiotic free. They would say all chickens antibiotic free. What are you talking about? Even though we gave them antibiotics from hatch to 3 days before harvest. So there's all these super sketchy games. Our whole thing is like, and the rest of the pasture community would say like, we're thinking about this backwards. Like, let's raise the animals in a way that they don't need antibiotics first and foremost.
Right.
I mean, if you have a sick cow on your little, family farm and you give it a couple antibiotics to get better, like good on you. I don't think there's a problem with that. But when you set up systems that the animals are going to be sick unless they're given these like preemptive antibiotics, we're doing it wrong. It's just like it's
Yeah.
a bad way to do it. So
Yeah. I've been a person, obviously, I don't like things fed soy, right? I avoid soy, corn, and all this. But the chickens it's interesting. Soy, which we have to remember, soy is a sacred grain that grows on the ground, you guys. And soy is considered a sacred grain because it replenishes the soil. And so when people were farming, it should have been used and it would replenish and heal the soil before we started this over monocropping kind of the way we were doing it a long time ago, thousands of years ago. That's what like sacred texts will refer to it, but it was never meant to be like consumed by the humans, except in times of famine to make tofu and things like that. But the animals eat it, right? So if we were wild and there's going to be soy clovers growing, the chickens would eat them. Like so they are designed to be able to eat certain things. So I was a little bit at first. I was like, oh, right. And I was like, oh, yeah, chickens are different. And they are in the wild. Birds are they're very different and what they forage and how they eat.
well, they also come with different nutritional profiles. Like I really recommend don't just eat chicken. Like if you can do, pasture raised, grass fed, grass finished red meat too. Like it's one of the
Oh,
most
yeah.
nutrient dense foods. And when you mix those two together, especially looking at the organ meats, hopefully everybody on here knows you've got to be eating your organ meats from pastured animals specifically. Make bone broth only from pastured animals. Like do not make your bone broth from animals that have lived in confinement. Like that's going to be, all bone broth is like extracting whatever's in those bones. So be really careful about bone broth from anything other than pasture raised animals. But yeah, that's the whole difference, right? So it's like try to get the nutrients from all of these pasture raised animals. And by the way, you can factory farm kale and you can factory farm corn and you can factory farm anything. It's not just animals that can be factory farmed. So like look for these regenerative nutrient dense sources of all of your food, not just animals. And nobody's perfect. That's the other thing. Just do your best.
Yeah, absolutely. Just do your best. I mean, that's really where we're kind of at. Let me on your website, remind me, there's like a camera, right? So they could see this moving coop. I'm like, it's like a barn thing, you guys, and it moves. It's a coop. That's how city I am. I didn't even know what to call it. But is there a thing where people can see this? Like, do you have a live feed at times?
We're really close. We're thinking about doing a full 24/7 live feed. Here's my problem with that though. I want to do that in the spirit of just brutal, radical transparency, which is like what I think the food system really needs. I actually want to get like in the comments. It'd be fun to hear what people think of this. I mean, every once in a while you have a dead chicken. You have 6,000
Mm,
birds or 600, depending on like what size of coop that you're using. Naturally it happens. Like we don't have the crazy climate control. Every once in a while you're going to have a dead bird. So I'm curious to hear, like, would you guys like that as a feature, like a QR code on a package? You hit it and you're like instantly on our real farm with the real birds and the real deal. Or would you think like you get a little grossed out seeing, I mean, maybe there's a dead bird every once in a while or whatever. I don't know. I'm like genuinely interested to hear how people would feel about that. But we do show so many pictures and videos pretty much every day. We're doing something with
yeah.
the real coop. And we honestly, full transparency, we used to do this where we'd like pull a few chickens out. We take these like glamorous Instagram shots of like the sunset and the bird and all this stuff. And we're like, you know what? Screw that. Like, we don't want to be propagating this kind of like false narrative. So then we only now show pictures and videos of real birds in our real floorless mobile coops. And we want to like educate people and actually show them what really it looks like. Like enough people are doing the glamour shot thing and like,
Yeah.
come on, like,
Sexy
can we be better than
chickens.
that? Like it's
Yeah.
2021. Like, can we do a little better than like these fake, like Instagram worthy shots of like our food? Like it's too
Yeah.
important to let it just be about that.
Well, it seems like they would like the chicken cam. And the reality is, like somebody said, like that is a part of life, and transparency and death is a part. I think I actually, at first, I wasn't thinking 24 hours, but it is kind of cute with a chicken cam. You could even go live sometime or have highlights. But people understanding like connecting to nature, right? You're saying, I'm trying to follow nature. I'm trying to do, well, you know what? In nature, they die. Things
Yep,
die. Not everybody makes it. I mean, I have a hawk that keeps going through my neighborhood and I'm trying to be like,
totally,
there's no squirrels. I mean, there's like no squirrels right now because I'm like, yeah, they are eating everything right now. And that's just life. I mean,
totally.
I came home and the other day it was in I'm like, and it flew, I'm like, oh, was eating something. Now, I'm not, it's just, do I think, I mean, like, oh, okay, but that is life. It has to live. And then next year, probably there won't be as many hawks and there'll be a whole lot more squirrels. There's a cyclical nature to all of this. And I think the more people actually, they may not have the opportunity to become a farmer like you. They may not be able to
Totally.
get 5 or 10 chickens in their backyard, but it gets them a little bit more connected to nature through the camera and seeing like
Yeah.
this is what really goes on. These are the people that are actually working. And I think it could be very interesting, especially for children, to see like the process of, at this point, I'm getting very nervous that children don't know where food comes from. Like they don't understand carrots grow in the ground, milk comes from a cow. They're just so used to these packaged ready-made things that they have no connection of how it really works. So
What
I think
freaks
it's
me
pretty.
out is I used to say that same exact thing, and we've hosted 25,000 people for farm tours now because I mean I don't think there's anything we can do better than literally having real people out to our real farm and walk the pasture and like see it for yourself. And we use the term like inspect what you expect in the Marine Corps, like
Yeah.
I mean if you think something's happening, you need to go there and see it for yourself. I used to say like, oh, our poor kids. It's not just kids. Like we're 3 generations into people not having any idea where their food comes from. I've
Yeah.
seen 50 and 60-year-old grandparents
Yeah.
come out that have never stepped foot on a farm, and they're far removed from like their ancestors who certainly did. So I wish it was just our kids' generation,
That's
but I
true.
do think there's this piece of it that's like our whole thing is like, how do we leave it better for the next generation? Not just the soil, but like also farming practices and everything else. Like it feels like this radical, sometimes freaky, a little bit transparency is going to be a big part of that because we've got nothing to hide, Like to
Yeah.
me, transparency is the best marketing that we have. So the more we can show, we're not perfect. We don't claim to be. I'd have no problem, as long as people aren't going to be like, oh, these gross farmers with like their dead chicken every once in a while. But you know what? If you're going to eat animal products, in my opinion, you don't have to go to that website and see it if you don't want to, but like
Yeah.
I think it's really cool to make that available for people that do want that, and like
I think it's
100
good.
years ago, you would have seen your neighbor, how he was growing his cows every single day. So it's not that
Yeah.
different than like what would have been available back in town.
Yeah. Well, I have friends that grew up in farm community. They're my age. They grew up in farming communities, and so they know the sound of the pig slaughter and they know. They're like, oh yeah,
Totally.
because the neighbor, like on their ranches, they would hear it all and know what time and go to the barbecue and buy each other's food. And these
Yep.
people are in their 40s, so it just depends on kind of where you grow up and that's not what I experienced, right? We had to drive out to a farm and drive
Yep.
out to a place where there were ponies. Well, my mom tried to do all that, but this is the 70s. It's a little bit different now. I saw um, when you just one little note, you said like if you're gonna eat animal products, you should know. Actually, if you eat anything, because the reality is vegetarian products are killing. What a change it would make if there were, cameras on the fields that were making all the soy and the corn to show you what really went into making that fake
Yeah.
chicken and the fake burger, how many animals were actually being killed. Because I didn't know that. I was kind of stunned to realize what those machines do and how they just come in there and while they're just destroying all the small life. And so
Well, get
to,
this, not just the rabbits and the squirrels and the lizards and the spiders. How about the smaller animals? To me, a caterpillar is no less important than a cow, right? So what do you think a pesticide is? When you go out and spray a 200-acre field with a pesticide, you're literally killing billions of
yeah,
animals in one shot. And
right.
so we got a long ways to go on the plant
Yeah,
side and the animal side. The
right.
exciting thing is this like breakthrough, if you will, that's kind of funny because like indigenous people have known this forever, is that plants and animals are meant to grow together, and the
Yeah.
plants feed the animals and the animals feed the plants. And so like closing this like cycle that we think we're so smart now because we've like figured out regenerative agriculture. It's like, okay, guys, people have known about this for a long time.
Yeah.
Indigenous people here, look at ancient Chinese farming, Korean farming. I mean, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
We're like the crazy ones that tried this experiment back in the 40s and the 50s to confine everything and separate everything and like monocrop everything. And it's like, at some point we need to call a spade. Like our little experiment here has failed, and we need to go
Yeah.
back to the drawing board and like look at systems that actually work and build soil health, you know?
Yeah. I love it. I love that you're doing that. So let's remind everybody, some people popped on. This is Pasturebird. Tell them again, you guys, it's on my website, but just go tell them your website, what you're doing, what you're selling, why I'm talking to you. Because people popped on like, who is this? What's going
Yeah,
on? And
yeah.
does he have ducks and are there eggs and are there this? And I'm like, I don't know. I got a bunch of
No, it's
chicken
awesome.
and it's really good chicken, you guys. That's to say I stopped liking chicken because I didn't feel good after I ate it and I wasn't satisfied. And I think it's because of even when I was buying stuff from the Whole Foods or whatever, I wasn't getting I think the omega-3 ratio and
It's a huge
omega-6 was
part.
the biggest
Yeah.
problem for my body where I just was like, I'm kind of still starving after, like I'm not really satisfied the same way I feel when I eat steak or something. But I love, like, I actually like chicken wings and filet mignon. That's like one of my
Mm,
favorite little
good
combinations, like the
combo.
crispy, spicy, and the
Good
juicy.
combo.
My sister and I both are like, oh my God, air fry some chicken wings, right? So, and I grew up, one of my favorite things as a kid were drumsticks. I mean, when my mom made chicken, I'm
Most
like,
undervalued thing on the whole bird is
my
the drumstick.
favorite
Yeah.
part. That's my favorite. I'm like, I love a
Nutrient
drumstick.
density, flavor, ease. I
Yep.
put one in my kids' lunch like pretty much every single day. We just pre-cook them on Sundays, and then you have one to like drop in cold all the time, like,
Oh,
and
that's
they're cheap.
brilliant.
It's the best. So
Yeah, they're
no,
my favorite. So tell them who you are. Where's your website, you guys? He's the chicken guy, and I love, and I know you don't put it all over the place, but we got an American-owned, veteran-owned company. He's a veteran. He's trying to make a difference and go back to nature and treat birds the way they should be treated and work in harmony. So tell them about your chicken real fast. Wants to pop on your website.
yeah, I mean, I'll be the first one to say like I'm just one small guy in this kind of sea change of like regenerative and pasture-based farming. But we're Pasturebird. We're based in Southern California, kind of like born and bred here. We're pasturebird.com. We ship products mostly around California, but we do offer nationwide shipping. And then the other resource I'd give you would be getrealchicken.com. That's where you can go find a real pasture-raised chicken farmer near you. A lot of the guys on there may be, tiny backyard Amish seasonal producers. Our goal is really to fill in where those guys can't and serve grocery stores and some of the bigger restaurants and like try to bring this nutrient density pastured poultry thing in with some affordability and some accessibility where these backyard farms, I love it. I'd love to see 1 million backyard farmers in every single neighborhood doing local, sustainable, actually I hate the word sustainable, local regenerative agriculture. But I want to see a better system left for my kids. And so I think that some of these like bigger, more scaled up operations are really important as a complement to the small local farms as well.
Yeah. Tell them about so you're coming to Georgia, down where I am, right? So anything you want to share about how you're trying to work with other farmers and branch out and about this new partnership, if you're comfortable talking about it?
Yeah, it's top secret, and we're only going to talk about it here with you for your followers. So no, we have some really exciting news that we'll be dropping in the next couple months, but I'll give you guys like a little behind the scenes, which is always fun. So we've always wanted to grow this outside of just California. Whether you live here or not, California is amazing, but it's so expensive, especially for agriculture. I mean, we're talking about land prices, $20,000, $50,000 an acre, a climate where to keep grass green year round, you really can't do it without supplemental irrigation, which is fine for what it is. But if we're trying to bring, again, like accessibility and affordability, we want to go somewhere that has a climate that's more like temperate and a little more moisture if we're going to try to do this pastured thing. So we looked all across the country, all the different environments, all the different climates, kind of came back to like Texas and Georgia as the two really places where we want to be long term. And so we'll have our operations in California, and now we're partnering with some farms that are just getting their first taste of pasture poultry this year. Yeah, and I see Florida on there, so we'll for sure want to sell into Florida, that whole Southeast out of this Georgia operation. That's what we're really excited about. So the farmers there, I won't say anything bad about the farmers in California, but the farmers in Georgia know their shit, pardon my French. They're awesome farmers. They know how to fix stuff on the spot. The climate's amazing. We have a great local processing option that has some scale and some good packaging and all that. So for us, Georgia will probably be where some of our growth comes from. And to me, that's just super exciting because what a great state, what a like awesome area for agriculture. They're kind of like the chicken belt, like tons of chicken is produced there,
Yeah.
but all of it's done in these like conventional systems. So it's really fun when we go talk to farmers about this pasture model because they're like, whoa, like what are you talking about? You know, how is it like complementing either their row crop operation? So a lot of these guys will grow corn or they'll grow different like row crops, but how do we work the chicken into those rotations to actually fertilize the field instead of using synthetic fertilizer, which is again like really excited for this nutrient density of the grains and the products they're producing. If not, they're typically grazing cattle, and so instead of just, you know, maybe adding some synthetic fertilizer to grow their pasture, like now they can use the chickens to fertilize their fields and the cattle all in concert. This idea that we're starting to call like the beautiful dance. You know, how do the chickens work with the cows, which work with the soil, which works with the manure and the grass? Like it all has this like beautiful thing that we get to kind of like be part of. But yeah, Georgia, so excited, such a cool place. I have not made it there for peach season yet. I was there just a few weeks ago and I realized I missed peach season, so I was very upset about that, but I'll be back.
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. All right, we will keep, I'm excited. I'm excited about stuff we talked about with you guys. Um, I don't want to keep you too long. I think if there's any last little questions that anybody might have, because it's not eggs, right? It's just chicken.
We don't do eggs, but again, getrealchicken.com. I keep saying it, but it's a great resource. They have chicken or eggs. They even have a filter where you can look up turkey or ducks. There's lots of awesome pasture poultry producers all around the country. I'd love for folks to go find somebody local. And again, if you can't, or if not a farmer's market shopper kind of person, we want to be the ones to fill in, the retailers and the grocery stores and stuff like that. But when you can, buy food local, man. It makes a huge difference, on your local economy. So
It really does. I really appreciate you being so generous with that. Um, Somebody said duck. And somebody said, how are the birds sacrificed? That's a good question. I didn't ask that because I'm kind of like, do I want to know? But
I don't typically use like the word
I
sacrifice,
know,
but
I
maybe I'm gonna
know.
start doing that. I like that. We call it harvesting. Actually, my peers call it harvesting. I call it slaughtering because I'm like, you know what, like just call it what it is.
Yeah.
We're slaughtering the bird. We're providing food. Like we're doing something really honoring the bird. I don't know how much graphic detail you guys want. I'd be happy to like sidebar, shoot me an
Don't go
email,
too
Paul at
graphic.
Pasturebird.
Just don't be too graphic. Just like, like it's not a bullet to the head. Is it what do you do? Like, what's a general?
So for years we did this in our backyard, and actually I always said like chicken's the gateway drug. Once you know how to do chicken, you can do anything. The way that we want to do it is obviously the most humane way possible, as quick as possible. We put the bird upside down. What that does, the bird when it goes upside down is almost like, I think it's because in nature, the only time a bird would be upside down is in a predator's mouth. So it
Yeah.
almost like goes into this trance state and goes into like this natural like playing dead state. It
Yeah.
becomes really, really
It
calm.
dissociates. It's a safety dissociation, I bet. It's what humans do too in trauma. When you're
I would
about to
totally,
die.
yeah, I
Yeah,
would
you go
believe
into
that because it's this
dissociate.
weird thing. They'll be flapping, and then all of a sudden you like turn them over, and they're just like so calm and relaxed. At that
Wow.
point, maybe it's too much information, but again, in the spirit of like radical transparency,
Yeah.
you cut the carotid arteries of the bird. That's the two arteries that have the blood flowing between the brain and between the heart. So as soon as you do that, within like seconds, the bird's totally incapacitated and it's lost all consciousness.
Oh.
Um, it's the most humane way that we know of to do it. I will say there's this like new school coming out that's gas stunning, where they'll like run them through a gas chamber and pass them out. I don't know. I would say the jury's still out if that's truly more humane or there's like unintended consequences potentially with doing it that way. To me, going in for that like carotid artery, quick, painless, fast, that's good, and it's a good way to do it. And that's how we did it in our backyard, and it's how we do it in a USDA certified plant that we work with now as well. After that, the bird's dead. It's rendered unconscious. We give it plenty of time before it hits any other step to make sure it's totally dead. It's going to run through what's called like a hot water bath. That's just like when you take a shower and you loosen your pores like a hot shower. It's going to loosen up the pores so that the feathers are easier to pluck. So your grandma would have done this, great grandma, whatever. They would have run it through like a hot water bath. And then the plucking process used to be by hand. You would actually take the feathers off. Like, it takes 5 or so minutes to like pluck a chicken. Now we have these like spinners that have rubber fingers on them, and it just plucks the chicken. So there's all the feathers are off of it. We'll go in, we'll take out the innards or the organs. And then you literally have, once you've taken out the innards, it takes like 2 seconds, you have a head on, feet on, traditional Chinese whole chicken that they would sell like in the market. Yeah. Most Americans, unfortunately, don't like to buy chicken that way. I think we're stupid for it. We should be selling whole chicken, head on, feet on. That's where all of the good nutrients are. It's where the best stock comes from, is those feet especially. But we don't sell it that way. I think it's a shame. So we cut off the head, cut off the feet, and then that's literally your whole chicken that you would get in the store. And it sounds gnarlier than what it is. We've done hundreds of people, probably thousands of people have come for our processing workshops. We're not currently offering them. I guess COVID, I guess like PETA came and showed up at one of them, which was a bummer. But we were offering to take people. We would demo it. And I understand not everybody wants to do this, but some people really did. We would give them a live chicken and we'd take them through the whole process. And it was like pretty emotional for people, but I'm not crying. I'm just like thinking my throat.
It's okay.
Excuse me 1 second.
Yeah, take your time. He needs to get water.
I'm not crying, I promise.
It's okay. I know. It's like, I'm military. Drink your water. Talking.
Oh my gosh.
I've been there. Talking does it. It's okay.
It's a dusty day out here, yeah. Anyways, that's the process. We want to be transparent about it. Not everybody wants to like hear about it, but at that high level, I'm like, you can understand the basics,
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think it's important. I mean, in the squeamishness that, we may have, I'm there. I was a vegetarian 14 years. All the stuff used to make me very squeamish. I'm not anymore. I'm a carnivore. I'm not as far away from that as you can get. I still haven't hunted. I still haven't ever slaughtered an animal, but I need to get over my own insecurities, my squeamishness, and my fear, and get on it, actually, because it's a dishonor I'm doing to the animals that are sacrificing their lives to give me their life. So I totally get why people would want to learn, to see it, even if it was just a spiritual learning, like,
exactly.
I should at least have this moment, like, I can suffer this little bit of one time learning how to do this because of what, you know what I mean? Like what we're just taking for granted. So I think getting people away from taking for granted how this actually happens and how to be more appreciative and grateful, I think is important. So I love that you were teaching that. And I think I see why people would want to. There's a strong movement towards hunting again and more homesteading behavior. Like, what would it be like to live in the 1800s? What would Little House on the Prairie? What would it be like? We can be civilized in a house and a family and beds and stuff, but what would you do if you had to raise your own and make your own candles and, and make your own clothes if electricity went down or systems went down? Could you? And there's only a small part of American culture that could survive, that would know what to do, right?
It's become far too easy to walk through the grocery store and just dissociate a packaged food product from an animal that was alive and breathing and has literally sacrificed to make you well and to bring you nutrition. So that gratitude piece, like what she's saying, it's huge,
And the symphony of nature that you described, it's really quite beautiful. How sun, night, wind, dirt, soil, caterpillar, chicken, gizzard, cow,
integrated, man.
Poop, blood, how all of it, as a bad analogy, I'm a mother. I gave birth. Not a thing about it was clean or didn't hurt. It's messy and kind of violent, and it's considered and horribly painful. And yet it's the most overwhelming, powerful love, gratitude moment right after, you know what I mean? And it's like, unless you've been there or seen it or been through it, you probably don't get it. So
I'm right
I
there with you.
appreciate.
We've had four babies all at home, and it's the most beautiful thing. I mean, and I appreciate that analogy. I mean, it
Yeah,
is
but
when
it's
you can partner
painful
with
and it's
nature.
dirty.
I mean,
Yeah, it's a
it
part of
totally,
nature and
totally,
it's dirty and wet and messy and bloody and it's not, there might be poop involved. I mean,
totally.
just expect the unexpected because this is how life comes into this earth and life going out has the same things involved and it's as you come in, you go out. So I really appreciate how um, your illness, your pain of Lyme and what it did for you. I think it's a great example of, I love when people can reframe when a bad thing can happen to you, a painful thing, a thing that might take some people out can really turn you. It's the greatest gift that was ever given to you because it gives your entire life purpose and meaning. I don't know if that was the situation for you, but I love pain to purpose stories. And I think people who take the pain and transform it are our, heroes that we need to follow. So, thank
Yeah,
you for
again, we're
doing
just
what you
one we're
do.
just one part of it. I mean,
I know, I
if people
know.
don't buy this stuff, we're not going to be around, so that goes for me or any other, regenerative food farmer that's out there. So, I mean,
Yeah,
everybody on this plays just as important role because if you don't support these things, if you don't buy them, they're not gonna
yeah,
exist. These companies will only produce stuff that people want. So
right.
it's a huge part of voting with your fork and voting with your dollar. And
Yep.
it's not about
It's
doing every
worth it.
single thing perfect, but it's like, what can you do in your little sphere to like move the ball for the
Right.
next generation?
And sometimes people are so concerned just about the money, the money, the money. And I think that's why they like to say disconnected and dissociated from
Sure.
what actually is the whole process. I'm like, well, yeah, you do pay a little bit more money, but look at the whole story of how it's done. What's the price you're paying in the whole ecosystem of what's going on from the soil to the fat to the life. I imagine the life of your employees is very different than the life of
Sure.
employees in some other uh, plants,
100%.
poultry
Yeah.
production, right? Like what they're experiencing and the stress and strain, their emotional state and how they're treated and what they
Well,
have
if
to
cost is
endure.
an issue, trust me, like learn how to cook those either whole birds or off cuts. Like there's the same nutrition in ground beef as there is in a filet mignon, and it's a quarter of the cost. There's more
Yeah.
nutrition, to be honest, in a drumstick than there is in a boneless, skinless chicken breast, and
Yeah.
that's a quarter of the price. So it's like
Yeah.
if you're, I mean, I see this all the time. If you're really committed to like eating nutrient dense food and supporting kind of regenerative agriculture, you can figure it out. It's
Yeah.
it's not the most comfortable. It might mean you got to learn some new recipes or whatever, but you could do it. You could totally do it. So
That's right. I say
I
you
really
can do it.
appreciate you having me on. I mean,
I
it's fun to
appreciate
talk with
you.
you about this stuff. I feel like we see eye to eye on so many things, and it was fun last time talking about the parallels between like human health and immune system and chicken health immune system. So we'll have
Yeah.
to catch up again sometime down the road.
Yeah. When you get all settled in Georgia, when next time you come, like talked about, like I'd love to come out and meet you. We could,
You got to come out
do
for
a
sure.
live. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Totally.
And think about the cam. That'd be really, that'd be pretty fun.
I'm gonna
I
set it
wasn't even
up.
thinking
It's just if I turn
24/7.
it on or not is the question, but it's gonna be set up. I'll have the link to it, so maybe I'll come on and I'll share it just for your followers or something like that.
Well, I mean, the carnivores would eat it up. I mean, you know
They
what
would
I'm
like it
saying?
too much. That's the problem. Yeah,
Yeah, you'd
exactly.
have like people eating the meat, watching it. Like we could have like group parties. Like, okay, I'm watching the chicken cam and
I
eating steak. Whatever. It's
love it.
hey,
I
why
love it.
not? And it could be a way. It could be some fun fundraisers you could do with that. Like I could see you actually doing some fun charity things. If anything you're passionate about, whether that would be,
Totally.
I don't know, all kinds of interesting things you could do. You
Well, I'm
could have some
passionate
fun with
about
it.
getting these nutrient dense foods into the people that really need it, which is the school systems and the hospitals. So that's kind of like what I really want to figure out. I mean, we've had a few older friends like end up in the hospital this past year, and the stuff that they're feeding these people is just, I mean, how are you supposed to heal in that environment?
I
It's just
know.
it's insane. So
I
that's
just
another
posted on my
conversation for
Instagram.
another time. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
well, we
just
got to help you raise
it's
money.
insane.
We got to find the right billionaire that's going to be obsessed
There
with this
you go.
chicken cam, and they're going to fund the whole thing because he's obsessed with the chicken cam.
I like it. Sounds good to me.
All right, have a good one. Bye,
You too.
everybody. Thanks
Thanks.
for
Bye,
coming on.
everybody.
See ya.
Bye.